Hi, I'm Jack Shilley and welcome to this week's episode of Jack Shilley Gardener. Now this week's episode I'm not down the allotment, but I'm going to be showing you the progress of some of the vegetables that I've been growing at home, ready to transplant down the allotment in a couple of weeks' time. Now I've been very busy at home in the greenhouse. There's loads of stuff to see, from chilies to sweet corn, pumpkins, loads. And there's still more seed trays in there waiting to be pricked out as well, some more unusual plants such as the pepino. What I'm going to show you first is the progress that my sweet corn has made. Now I'm very impressed with my sweet corn. These are a Silver Queen hybrid, so they're a white colour, which is quite unusual, and they've germinated really well. They're really strong plants, and as I said, I'm going to be planting those out in a couple of weeks' time. So let's take a look at the sweet corn now. So as I said, the first thing I'm going to be showing you today and the progress of is my sweet corn. As I said, and this is Silver Queen hybrid. I have got some normal yellow ones, they're just a little bit smaller than this, but still coming along well. We'll take a look at those in a bit when we're up at the greenhouse. But these look fantastic. What I did was I sowed them directly into very small individual pots, and then I've potted them on into these 10.5 centimetres to grow them on. Now as you can see, they are quite leafy and they have got this thick stem, but they will need supporting both in the pot and when it's in the ground, because on a day like today when it's very windy, they will bend and they have the potential to snap if the wind is strong enough. Now these are getting to the stage where they're almost ready to plant out, and the weather's warmed up quite nicely. We've not been having too many frosts, although we did have a light one a couple of days ago. But as you can see, they are getting quite root bound, so as soon as I can get them out of these pots into the ground, I'll be planting them in a nice line, giving them plenty of space to grow and mature. And I'll show you how to do that in a couple of weeks' time. And I'll be replacing these small canes with much larger, more substantial ones that are going to stay there for the duration of the growing season. Keep them well watered. It is advised, if you are growing them in containers like this, to give them a little bit of a feed, mix in some Tomerite or something along those lines in with the water, and then give that a sprinkle. And that will really help boost your plants and make sure that they crop really well later on in the season. This year, because I've got my allotment, I've decided to grow some pumpkins, some proper full-size pumpkins that can go in the ground. Now last year I tried growing pumpkins in containers, and while they did produce fruit, there just wasn't enough water or nutrients or space for them to grow and develop properly. So with the allotment I'm hoping that we can get some really nice decent sized fruits. So I've got two varieties that I'm growing this year. This one here came from Thompson & Morgan by seed. Now these are Atlantic Giants, so they are the largest type of pumpkin that you can buy, and they form very big plants, so you need to make sure they've got ample space, and the fruit itself is giant, really big. So I'm very much looking forward to growing these. Pumpkins are one of my favourite vegetables to grow. Now the other one I've got is called Halloween. Now this one's a little bit more developed because I bought it as a plug from the local garden centre. And as you can see, even now it's quite dry in there. It's used up all that water within that small container. Now, as I said, like with the sweet corn, as soon as the weather has warmed up and the risk of frost has totally passed, which is sort of getting to that point now, is then I can then plant these out. I'm going to trial them with a few different methods. I'm going to try one where I dig out a large area of soil, replace it with compost and well-rotted manure and see how that does. And I'm also just going to try it with planting it in the ground, feeding it regularly, see which does better. Actually working the soil or using like a more of a no-dig approach and using soluble feeds to sort it. So these are my pumpkins for 2014. So I've just pulled these out of the greenhouse quickly just to show you how my chilies and peppers are coming along. Now I'm a big fan of chilies, so to be able to grow some properly and have an actual raised bed inside my greenhouse this year in which to plant them and get a really fantastic crop is brilliant. They grew quite well outside last year, and I've got two of each variety, so I'm thinking one outside, one indoors, and I can do a proper comparison of which ones are actually growing better. I have three different types of chili and three different types of peppers that I'm growing. I've got Super Chili, Chili Apache and Chili Cayenne. Now Cayenne is a yellow colour, Super Chili is a mixture of yellows and reds, and Apache is a hot fiery red chili, which I'm very excited and looking forward to trying later on in the year. Now my sweet peppers, I have again three different varieties. I have the classic sort of variety which is Bellboy, which is big red peppers. I then have also sweet pepper Redskin and sweet pepper Jingle Bells. Now as you can see, they're growing really well. This one even has a few flowers forming on the top, which is fantastic. And as I said, same with the chilies. Some will be planted inside in my new raised bed, and some will be planted outside down the allotment. I'm really looking forward to seeing how these grow and develop over the season, and they're doing really well now. Make sure you keep them inside the greenhouse and keep them well watered. They don't want to be saturated and they don't want to be cold. If they get saturated, they'll just sulk and they won't grow properly. If they get cold, they'll get frosted and you won't have any crops this year, especially if they're coming into flower. The flowers will be completely killed by the frost, as will most likely the whole entire plant. So I'm going to keep these in the greenhouse for another few weeks, just until it's really nicely warmed up outside. Quite possibly I might pot these on because they are getting a little bit pot bound now, but otherwise keep them indoors and I'll be planting them out in a few weeks' time. And that's all we've got time for in this week's episode. Now, I'm not out in the garden at the moment. I just wanted to let you know that there was so much that I recorded for this episode that I've had to split it in two. So next week, what you'll get to see is what's happening inside my greenhouse at home, ahead of me planting them out. Now, it's really busy at the moment in the garden, so my videos are going to return to weekly episodes. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on these, and follow me on Twitter and Facebook at jack.shilley on Twitter, and Jack Shilley Gardener on Facebook. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next week for the rest of this episode.